Hey everyone, it's Niki Shelton, and thanks for keeping it real. And I'm here with Kerri Selby. Kerri, how are you doing today?
I'm much better this week. I'm not windblown at the car dealership like last week.
We started getting some of your weather. It's been, it rained so hard last night here. It's crazy. So
Oh my gosh. And we
um,
have a reprieve from the rain right now. So we actually have some sunshine.
that's super awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so how's the market doing? Let's start there and see how things are going on the market. How's rates looking? Have they went up, down, anything?
It's been
Same?
pretty tough. Yeah. Bond market's been pretty tough. And actually, purchases were down 6% just last week. And so year over year, that's a total of 22%. So that's huge. I was reading another report too that said we are at half of the amount of business that we had last year. They are
Yeah.
forecasting perhaps spring of next year will be a big time to either purchase or refinance. We've gone back and we've said this plenty of times. By now, it's going to become competitive at that point when houses are actually, interest rates are dropping. One good thing that did happen was the price of oil went down, which is good for headlining inflation. So that is kind of a sign that we're going to start seeing inflation level out because inflation affects everything, right? It affects gas. It
Yep.
affects, have you seen the price of gas lately? It's just ridiculous. So,
Food has been crazy
well, yeah,
expensive.
because it
So
costs money, gas to get things from place to place. Gas is a big,
yeah.
huge reason why things cost more. It has to be
Yeah.
transported. So,
Yeah. Um, but yeah, you're right. There's still people, and there are still people out there that have to move. And and it's really, it's, I don't know, in my opinion, there's times in the world, or times in the time that you have to, like, what, I'd like to make that move now. I don't have to, but maybe like to, but yet there are times that you still have to do the things you're doing. So,
mhm.
there's always ways around it. And if it's a good time, you should buy, and if it makes sense to you, and it makes if it's making sense to you, right? But it
Exactly.
has been harder, and there hasn't been as much movement out in the market. So
Yep, we're seeing things kind of lean out with our competitors too. People
yeah.
are dropping out of the business because they're just not able to sustain themselves anymore with what's happening out there. So,
Yep, and same thing in real estate market too. And it's just people are not getting, the sales and stuff. They're just not happening. So,
yes.
all right.
So keep us
So,
employed, sell your house or buy a new one.
right, we need you to do that. But I happen, the thing about doing this. So I do really appreciate this, because I had somebody kind of come to me the other day and say how much they appreciate, or they like watching us and doing our stuff and getting the information, because you know whatever stage that they're in or thinking about doing, it's been helpful to them in some respects. So we're doing something good out here, so I feel good about it.
Yeah.
It made my heart happy to hear that the other day. So I've heard it from several people actually lately. So
Very good.
anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get moving on. I know, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was when you were out, if I remember right, I talked a little bit about the change that's been happening. There was a lawsuit back in Illinois, and it was during when it was really competitive. It's like, like no one was asking for closing costs, and no one was asking for sellers to, even do a home inspection. They were asking for almost nothing, and they were actually saying, hey, take my firstborn, because, I really, really want this house. And it was just like this frenzy that was going on. And during that time, there was a lawsuit that was done in, like I said, in Illinois, and it was a bunch of sellers who said, hey, there's been a bunch of real estate brokerages, the National Association of Realtors. We're going to sue you guys because, we as sellers, we should not have to pay the buyer brokerage commissions. And as I talked about, honestly, I know there's a lot of really, like, and actually Washington was probably one of the first ones who really jumped on trying to make or do the right thing quite a while back. And so, we've had a lot of these systems kind of in place for a while. So when it was hitting us, it was kind of like, okay, not super big deal, but it's a little change, and some people don't like changes. But now it's going across to the rest of the country. Things are really starting to come up. A lot of states are starting to say, you have to do this, you have to make some changes. And really, what it is, it's transparency. And it's, sellers saying, hey, I don't want to pay your buyer brokerage commissions. And we talked about that. And if you want to go back and rewatch that, that's a great episode because, they don't have to pay it. I mean, buyers, they are responsible if they sign a contract, and that's what brokers are going to be doing is asking all the buyers to be signing a broker or a commission contract with them on what they're going to get paid because we have to get paid to work, right? So the buyer, it's going to make the buyer responsible for that if the seller doesn't do that. And I talked a lot of times about what the reason that the seller would want to do it. I also talked, about how that could hurt a lot of buyers out in that are coming up and buying because a lot of buyers don't have cash on hand. Like, they don't have the cash to do it. A lot of the lendings, I don't believe, are set up to help pay for the commissions. Is that correct, Kerri?
Correct. Yeah. So we're going to definitely delve into that next week more about what that looks like and discover some ways that could actually work because it's difficult. People are struggling to even come up with down payment and closing costs. So we need to think of some creative ways and learn of some creative ways to help make sure that everybody in the transaction gets.
I've even heard the VA is starting to kind of look at how their requirements are. I mean, it's going to be a couple of years out, but what they can do to help kind of assist the veterans because, again, that's going to limit who can buy the house at that point, right? So, but today we're going to take a little twist on that. We're going to switch over to for sale by owners. FSBOs is what we call them out in the industry, right? So,
yes.
We're going to talk about the pros and the cons of doing that because, who wants to pay our commissions, right? They're pricey.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and I will add this and I'm going to put my glasses on so we can see what's going on here. And oops, and I don't know how I got so far ahead. Oh my goodness, there we go. So the pros and cons of FSBO properties. So what is a FSBO, Kerri? I'll let you start talking for a while.
For sale by owner. We love our acronyms, don't we?
Yes, it's kind of fun to say FSBO. I don't know, it's just kind of a fun thing.
And I was trying to look up reasons why people want to do a FSBO. And like the one and only reason was to save on realtor commissions, to save money on the transaction.
Which to me, when I hear that, makes me just cringe. And then we'll get into that too on why I'm cringing when people say that. Such a bad idea.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's talk about the pros. So the pros was, like Kerri just said, one of the first reasons is because you don't have to pay your commissions, or at least you don't have to pay the listing broker. You might still have to pay buyer brokers because if your buyer is represented by a broker and you would agree to let the buyer come in and sell them the house, part of that might be a negotiation with the seller on paying for some of that commission. Because we know a lot of buyers aren't, cash on hand. They've got credit, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, you can save money, but you have to be good at negotiating.
You do. Yeah. And that's a lot of people like to have control over the process. They think I can do that. There's no problem. Look I have Zillow, I have
Selling
Redfin.
Sunset makes it look so easy, right? Selling Sunset and all those shows where you want and just, doesn't that make it look easy?
Yeah. And there's so many platforms that people like, oh, let me just go on TikTok and let people know that my house is for sale and it's just going to sell over asking price in 5 days. But that's not how it works.
And what's funny is, and it's when you start, at least way back, I mean, this has been a while ago when like you were getting trained and stuff when I was starting to work with my mentor and stuff. But, she's always like, when you talk to sellers, everybody's house is, when you're talking to the seller, their house is worth more than their neighbors. I mean, everybody's house is worth more than their neighbors.
Yes.
So to be good at pricing it, to be, have a very objective feel to it, that's kind of something different too. So, yes. Okay, go ahead. What's the next one?
So you kind of talked about how you have the flexibility to negotiate. You are in control. You get to decide how flexible you want to be, if you want to go down or if you want to hold out. And, if you're one of those people that think your house is worth way more than it actually is, you're going to hold out for a really good offer.
You could. You could wait for a long time. Mm-hmm.
And so the last is quick decision making. You get to say, I'm the one and only that has to make this decision. There's no middleman. So it makes the process go faster, or at least they think.
Sure, they do. And then they get to have, you talked about control a little bit too. And so they get to control who gets in their house, and they get to be there if they want to do an open house, and they get to be there to open the door for the people, right? They can do all that
Yes.
kind of stuff.
Doing
That
your
sounds
own
like so
open
much
house, that
fun.
sounds like a blast.
Okay. It sounds like a blast to me so far. Okay. Sorry. No, I mean, because we've known so many horror stories of people, I mean, who will do it and, and it's just like, oh my gosh. Anyway, but, a lot of this stuff is, I mean, we mean it really truly. So they'll try it, and I mean, there's some that can make it happen. I mean, they've got enough experience that, you know, they can do it, but there's a lot of things that come up that people don't even think about. And I mean,
Yeah,
everything
and a
that
lot
I've
of
done
times
in real estate. And thankfully, I have a huge network of people that I can always pick up a phone. And I've got, I mean, not just what I know, which I mean, I've got about 8 years in the business now, but I've got this huge network and, you know, mentors and people that are around me that I've surrounded myself with, that usually if I don't know the answer, I can reach out to find somebody who does know the answer or to get some advice. So there is a difference there too.
exactly. You just brought up open houses, and that really makes me laugh a little bit because I've been doing a lot of them recently. And there are some owners that just really want to be there during the process. And it's like, it's kind of cringy because, yeah, it's great that you're there, but people want to be able to feel relaxed in the atmosphere and just be able to look about the home freely and not have them interjecting about this thing that they did or how amazing this part of their home is. And so I think it kind of gives some people some inhibition about being there when the owner is there.
Yeah, I agree. And they want to be able to kind of talk freely too. I mean, in this day and age, you got to be careful because there are like rings and stuff like that and cameras.
Yes.
But but you do kind of want to have that opportunity to say, oh, you know,
I wouldn't do it that way.
right there hurting their feelings, because no one wants to hurt someone's feeling intentionally, right? At least most people don't. So
Yes. I have a funny story about that, but that's a time for another day. Story for another day.
love it. So pricing challenges. So, I mean, I, there's some houses that, like if you're like in the cookie cutter type of home and, your neighbors are selling all the time, it is very easy to price your home. So yes, it could work out very well for the seller if they're doing for sale by owner and they have one of those type of homes. There's other homes that usually, I mean, especially in Kitsap County, I mean, there's a lot of different types of homes out there, and, lot sizes, and you've got, extra bedrooms, and you have different square footage, and you have different types of homes, and you got different features and all this stuff. And pricing, I mean, and you like, Zillow, I know, is another like kind of real estate joke, because you'll
You
probably see it
can't,
on
it's not
Facebook.
accurate.
But when you bought your home, what's it worth now? And and then the next one should say, so do you really think your house is worth that now?
Well, and the funny thing is, when you look at Zillow, they're basing it, yes, on what was sold in other comparable properties in the area. But what if you let your house go to shambles during that time and you think you can list your house, but the siding's coming off, the gutters are falling apart, the roof has issues with it, and you think I can get 600,000 for this house, when reality, there's no way in heck. So
Exactly.
you can't go by what someone says on Zillow or anything like that. It needs
Yes.
professional eyes.
And it really does. And it's a skill, and it takes a lot of experience and practice to do it. And, I mean, I do it multiple times a month. I mean, I'm always checking out whether it's for my buyers or whether it's for my sellers. I'm doing comps like all the time, because is this comparing? Is this comparing? And, I mean, and whether you're buying or selling, I do that because I want to see, are we making the right kind of right priced offer? Are we are you putting on the right price to sell your house? So unless you've got a lot of experience doing that, it gets tricky. And I mean, you can look at Redfin, or you could look at realtor.com, or you could look at, I mean, whatever sites that put them out, Zillow. They're all different. I mean, and they can be $100,000 different. So, again, it's really knowing what the market is and knowing those homes in the market. Okay.
Exactly.
We got to continue on. Exposure. That's another big one, because, I mean, when I'm getting ready to market a house, I'm thinking, okay, I want it on here. I want it here. I'm going to push it up to here. I want to do this. I want to make sure that this happens. I need to make sure that these happen. I want to, and I've got all these different like things that, and it depends on the property too. And it's like, because what you do for one property may not be right for the next property.
Right.
And so, it's really, I mean, I have a whole bunch of connections. Again, I've got, my my personal company that I can send it out to. We've got like 12,000 brokers out there, and all over, and that can go out all over to those guys, on top of like your Zillows and all those other things. And if you're just a for sale by owner, you put it on Facebook, and all your friends think, "Oh, I'm so sorry you're moving," and
Yep.
so it's not quite the same marketing.
No. And that brings us to the next, lack of expertise. You don't know what you don't know. And if you're not in the business every day doing the job, you have no idea what it takes to actually do things. You don't know the legal terminology of a sales contract. What if you tick the wrong box and all of a sudden somebody is financially responsible for something that they shouldn't be? Or, you don't check the money that if the inspection doesn't pass, that you are still able to retain your earnest money. And who do you turn your earnest money into? Have they already contacted a title and escrow company and started the process for that all to happen? So there's just so many things. What about staging your home?
Yep.
Minimizing what you have. You guys bring in such a huge repertoire of expertise. I can't imagine somebody not wanting to use an agent to list their home so that they could make everything look as great as possible, as far as the aesthetics of the home, the contract, all of that just buttoned up.
Yep, absolutely. The photography and all that, absolutely. Okay, marketing challenges. There are some, I know, like there's the MLS online or something. I don't know. They just do a flat fee, and I guess they put it out in the MLS for you, and I guess that's okay for them to do that. But they're not really marketing your home. They're not coming in and making sure it's priced right. They're not doing a lot of those things. At least that's what my understanding of it is. So again, it's really where you're marketing and what you have access to, and a lot of homeowners just don't have that.
Right.
And
you're
pricing,
also going to be looking at like who are the agents calling that want to come through your home and show their clients your home? Are you going to be at their beck and call if you're at work? How are you going to arrange for somebody to come to your home if you're not there to let them in? You don't have a lockbox. You don't, all these different things that are available to actual realtors.
yeah. And with the lock boxes, again, all the realtors have got to be, and when the MLS has got to be fingerprinted and stuff. I mean, that's done through the state. So, at least you have some part of safety and comfort there, I guess, when, having people come into your home. But, you don't have that. You could be walking in, could be anybody, because we've had some crazy people out there lately.
Yeah.
Pricing strategies, part of when you sit down with when I sit down with my seller, it is, this is what I've run my numbers. This is where I'm comfortable. This is what we're going to do. What do you want to do with this number? This kind of area of where we could be priced at, do we want to do improvements? Do we not? You don't really have anyone to guide you through that process. I mean, sometimes it's just like, your house looks like it's in fabulous shape. I mean, you might want to, get a stage out here and get that stage. You might want to there's always different things to talk about, and to make sure that you're pricing accordingly. And that's a conversation I always have with my sellers, as far as, working with them and what they're comfortable with and what they want to do. So, when you're a single person, or you're doing it for sale by owner, you're making all those decisions. You are making those decisions, and hopefully you're making the right ones for you.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the next negotiation pitfalls. So here was something that just popped into my head. During that boom in housing, when people were making multiple offers, how do you come up with what the best offer is? If you have no expertise in the industry and you all of a sudden get all these pre-approval letters, or you get someone with a cash offer, how do you verify that they have the funds in order to give you a cash offer? How do you know what lenders give out reputable pre-approval letters? And is that even a lender, or have they made up a letter? Like, there's just so many things that could possibly go wrong with negotiating, with choosing the correct offer that comes in, because some people will just be like, oh, I'm just going to take the highest and best. But that might not always be the highest and best.
And you know what? A lot of times it's not the high. I mean, that doesn't work. It's not always the highest and best. Sometimes it's it's the more qualified lender, or there's more earnest money. And, do you understand what all those terms are? So yeah. Absolutely. And I did take a negotiation class. I love it. It's so much fun. I love that part of it. So. That's one of my fun things with real estate.
Yeah, imagine.
And then we have legal considerations, obviously. So, again, it's like you're looking at legal forms and you're writing up, I mean, when we're writing up the forms, we are practicing as an attorney and we're really within the scope of those forms. And we've had training with them. We get ongoing training with them. I mean, we do our CE credits to get our license renewed. And, if you don't have that, I mean, maybe you're really, really smart and really good, but I mean, I don't know, legal, you can get a lot of trouble there,
You can.
if you don't do something right.
Yeah.
Actually, it was funny because you're talking about the check box. And when I first started, there was this one, and it talked about you would accept the appraisal price or you will not. And it was that you would not, which most people think you would want to accept it, or not accept it, but like you'd want to, trying to think of the word I'm trying to use.
So just say it comes in a lot lower than what you offered, and there's an appraisal gap, right? A gap between the sales contract price and what it appraised at.
So the way they had it written in the contract was kind of confusing because it was saying the opposite of what you really actually want. They changed that recently, but I mean, that was a lot of people messed up on that one because they didn't know. So a lot of things to think about.
There are. And, for those who don't know what CE is, it's continuing education. And we have a lot of very stringent rules that we abide by. Also, we have to have that continuing education every year. Every 2 years, we get another background check pulled. They need to make sure that we get re-fingerprinted to make sure there's no outstanding charges against us. You can't just be anybody walking off the street and say, I think I want to have a mortgage lending license, or I think I want to become a realtor, so I'm just going to go apply for a license. It's not that easy. There's a rigorous test that you have to take, and it asks a lot of those legal questions. So,
yeah, absolutely. Okay. And so why would we want to hire a realtor?
I mean, I think we pretty much summed it up. We talked about all of those things.
I mean, the main thing is too, I mean, a lot of times it's what you don't know. So, you might have a buyer who's got representation. And again, they've got that skill level that maybe you don't have. And some people are willing to risk it. There's just so much, even in a normal transactions with realtors and people who've got the experience and stuff like that, there's so many things that can go wrong. Like I said, I mean, every time I do a transaction, I learn something new. And it's because every house and every group of people are unique. And sometimes I learn a really valuable lesson. Other times, it's like, okay, it worked out really well. But you're always learning something, and you might be learning something about the property. You might be learning something about a new law. I mean, there's just so much that's coming at our industry all the time. So, I would say, and you don't always save money. I mean, like I guess the bottom line with all this stuff is, yes, you could do it, but if you don't do some things right, like maybe you didn't give a seller disclosure, for instance, or something at the beginning, and that was something that you have to do by law, is you have to give. You didn't give one, and you have buyers, they move in, and a month after the fact, they find all the stuff wrong with your house, and they go back and they try to sue you because you didn't offer them a seller disclosure. It could be something as little as that. You forgot, you didn't know, maybe you knew it, but you totally forgot it. They didn't ask for it because you know what? They have that ground at that point to take care of that and to say you didn't supply this and it was a law and you had to do it. Yeah. So,
and we just talked about that. I actually purchased my home for sale by owner, and we had an attorney draw up the purchase and sale agreement, but that was the only thing we met with an attorney about. There were things that might have gotten called out on the inspection had it been the rainy season. But because it wasn't, and because there were rooms in the home that were not being used, there was a bathroom that was leaking. Every single gutter in the house leaked. It just sounded like drips everywhere, or they're right in front of the front door. It was just like a waterfall when you came underneath the gutter, because it was a crack right in the seam that you couldn't see unless it was raining. So, I mean, buyer beware.
Yeah.
And another thing that popped into my head is, haven't there been a lot of scams happening where people are claiming ownership, or they're claiming they're this or that and providing bad bank statements? What if you find somebody that finds your listing and says, you know what, I don't want to pay realtor fees either, so let's just have this between us, and they get into this transaction with this person, and all of a sudden things go completely sideways.
Yep.
And you're being taken because
hundreds
of fraudulent activity.
Dollars, your whole life savings, and people have done it. And even with stuff. I mean, it's crazy out there. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
very, very good point. Yep. So, I mean, get the professionals on and see what we can do. And do we have anything else on that one?
Just the last one, how, realtors and lenders, how we work hand in hand.
Perfect. And we do. And we work very closely together. And it's not because we're teaming up against our people. Actually, I still have a client who thought that. I'm like, no. but we have to talk because that's how we make the world go around and the transaction go around and get it done. But it takes a lot of expertise. And I mean, like I said, there's a lot of times when, we're doing these and it's like, Kerri, this is the one for you to answer because this is your side of the fence. And then there's stuff that's my side of the fence. So
Well, and you talked about it. You develop these professional relationships with people throughout our industry, whether it be somebody that you could call if you needed to have the gutters cleaned, or say there's chipping paint on a VA home and you need it to be fixed quickly. You know people that can do things like that and that will do things like that because you have developed this trusted relationship. And that's really the relationship between a real estate agent and a lender. They work together collaboratively, and most work together often because they have developed this relationship of trust.
Absolutely. So I'm glad I trust Kerri there.
And likewise, vice versa.
Okay, you guys, it is at the end of the half almost. We were almost half hour today. Thank you so much for watching and joining us today for Keeping It Real with Niki and Kerri. We appreciate you being here, and hit that like, subscribe, or follow button so you don't miss one of our episodes. Thanks so much.
Take care.